It's Baseball at the Corner. This is the Michigan in Trouble podcast with your hosts, Alex S. Freeman and Luke Jatonis.
All right, let's talk about the 2020 season that we finally have announced. Oh, wait.
Yes. There's a lot that's been going on, and we have a season to still not announce. So just a great time.
Yay. What a mess.
Yeah, it sucks. It's big old this is a big old sucky sandwich. That's what it is.
Yeah, it is just atrocious that they have not been able to get a deal together. I was looking at the proposal that the players that is like currently sitting as the proposal, the 70 game proposal from the players. And outside of the number of games, it's a really good proposal.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just going to run through it real quick, and then we'll kind of circle back to why the players are ridiculous with their 70 game proposal. So a 70 game season from July 19th through September 30th, full prorated pay. Spring training begins June 26th through the 28th. Expanded playoffs to 16 teams in 2020-2021 seasons. Minimum pool for playoff shares in 2020 based on rounds played. $50 million if full playoff is staged. A 50-50 split of incremental TV revenue for any additional post-season games in 2021. Salary advance forgiveness for all players in tiers 1 through 3 of the March agreement. We don't need to get into that. That's just opt-outs, full service, and salary for players who are high risk and those who live with high-risk individuals. $10 million for social justice initiatives. $50 million transferred from joint funds to the commissioner's discretionary fund. Clubs, this one was interesting that I hadn't seen yet. Clubs granted permission to sell advertisements and patches on uniforms in 2020 and 2021. And parties to collaborate on broadcast enhancements, mutual waiver of potential grievances under the March agreement. And that's obviously the sticking point for ownership. And what ownership is trying to avoid is the players filing a grievance. And so that was, to me, like, as we were texting about this when it initially dropped, I was like, that waiver of grievance is the thing that the owners want. And so that makes me feel like they would swallow it. But the sticking point, I think if the players had said 65 games, we'd be done. This would be it. We would go.
This is it's stupid. Like, this is so stupid. We're going to haggle the players. The one thing the players wanted most was their full prorated salaries. Guess what? You got it. Okay, the thing they desired most, they got. Now, this is where that word compromising comes into play yet again. Now it's your turn as the players. Now you give in a little bit. And then the owners maybe give in a little bit more, and you meet somewhere in the middle. I don't get it. The owners want a shorter season because the more games they play, the more money they're going to lose. The players wanted their full prorated salaries. Guess what? They both came to a nice, happy medium. So why are the players now going to try to haggle with the owners for another possibly couple of weeks over 10 frickin' baseball games? Who cares? Enough is enough. Like, you got what you wanted. You got your full prorated. The thing that Scott Boras was saying, don't you dare accept anything less than full prorated salaries. You got it. So is there literally something I'm missing here that I'm just too stupid to comprehend? I mean, this is exactly the one thing the players wanted more than anything they got. So now why they're greedy? Now why all of a sudden are they going for it? The owners are greedy. The players are greedy. And then Rob Manfred, I'm sure we're going to get to it in a second, but what an idiot. I mean, last Wednesday says, we're 100% having a season, comes out Monday and says, no, I don't know if we're going to have a season. If you don't know, Rob, who the hell does? You are the commissioner of Major League Baseball. It's time to get our head out of our ass and figure out what is going on, because your sport's a laughingstock, dude. Everyone around the world knows that Major League Baseball is the absolute urinal cake of professional sports right now. Let's go. Let's figure it out, or just stop. And now there's Corona. And guess what? Now coronavirus cases are spiking again. This isn't. I want one of these days. I'm just going to have to let an F-bomb rip. I won't do it on a live show though. This is a definition of a cluster. You know what? It's a complete mess. But I don't. I don't. Am I literally? I'm not being an ass right now. Am I missing something like that? The players are trying to get that the owners like also don't want to give in. Like, are we both on the same page, or that this doesn't make any sense?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. That I don't know, because like it's 70. The season that they propose is a span of 74 days.
Mm-hmm.
And so they proposed to play a 70 game season in a 74 game span, in the midst of a global pandemic. And that to me is idiocy to begin with. And two, in reading through some reporting from ESPN about that, it's the thing that all of the health commissions, everybody, all the health sources is saying, the less amount of time you can keep people together, the better off you are. So double headers, by definition, should just be out the window. Yes. So we don't have double headers to make up rainouts. We don't have double headers to just allow for days off.
Yep.
And so I think, and that's the thing too, is that, with this other kind of breaking news today, which is that the Phillies and the Blue Jays have closed their spring training facilities officially because of some positive tests in the Phillies organization and one Blue Jays player exhibiting symptoms, is that, players are definitely going to be taking a harder look at what is the health and safety protocol? Is this going to be safe for me to come back and play? And rightfully so. And they should ask those questions. But it's difficult for you to say MLB is not keeping you safe when your counter proposal was the unsafe, the least safe option of trying to cram too many games into too short of a time span. And it sucks that Major League Baseball ran out the clock like this so that we couldn't play 82 games. Because, you think about it, we'd gotten this all started a month ago.
Yep.
We'd have more than enough time to play 82 games. Or if we'd, just figured out this plan that was going to be the turnkey solution for an 82 game season when we hammered out this first agreement in March, then we would have been fine to go ahead and do that. But now we find ourselves in a situation where 60 games seems to be the safe option that will get us safety. And we could even go to 65. There's a little room for that, but that seems like the absolute upper bar of what we can get.
I just don't even get why we're being so nitpicky over potentially 10 games. I just kind of gave Rob Manfred some crap because obviously the statement he made on Monday was idiotic. But now I'm going to put it back on the players. The players all throughout this week. What did you see after Rob Manfred said, "I don't know if we're going to play"? Almost every big name player in Major League Baseball took to their social media and they retweeted each other saying, "Tell us when and where." Guess what, dumbasses? You've been told when and where. 60 games is the deal, so let's do it.
Which is better than what you're going to get if you try to go through the grievance process. Which at this point, I think you've shot yourself in the foot for a legitimate grievance, because they gave you 60 games, they gave you full prorated.
Yeah.
We look at the calendar. I think that the calendar dictates that if he sets it at 50, maybe you have a grievance, but I don't think you really do.
No,
because you didn't negotiate that. He offered you 60 when we could have played and you said no. And so then he's going to set it at 50, and they have a really nice health and safety case to make as Major League Baseball in the grievance filing. And so you're going to lose your grievance. And so you're not going to get the finances that you're trying to get, that you're trying to use this process to get a hold of, which is also another thing that I do agree with. You should try and get those things. You should try and get those books. But this wasn't you tried to seize on a moment and not really think it through. I feel like this was not a thought through counter.
None of this has been thought through. I mean, we said it on last week's show. This is just complete unprofessionalism to a T and horrible negotiating on both sides. It's every second we think we're going to get a positive report, we hear that negotiations have once again fallen through, or that a proposal has been sent over to one side, but it's already being confirmed that the side doesn't like it, they're going to reject it. It's just what? And then it was Rob Manfred and Tony Clark, I believe. Yep. They met Monday in Arizona, and I'm assuming
former Detroit Tiger Tony Clark.
Yeah. I am assuming they had been meeting previously, whether it was phone calls, Zoom meetings, face-to-face. I don't know. I'm going to assume that was the case, because if not, if this is the first time these guys met, we have we just need to stop, because if the head of Major League Baseball, and I think he's the head of the MLBPA, right?
Yeah.
If they're not meeting, prior to all this, this is the first time they're, having a conversation or whatever, which that's probably a long shot. I'm sure this is even a silly argument I'm trying to make here. But if it is the case, what?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's at least how it sounded like. It sounded like they were like, the reports I was hearing was that they had that emergency meeting in Arizona. So I'm assuming they'd been talking prior and there was communication prior to that one meeting. But if it wasn't, yikes, we got a big problem.
Yeah, and it was sort of being reported as though it was almost if like the first time they'd met since March, and that's terrible. And this is the thing too with the players, like you mentioned the tell us where and when campaign. I think that clearly turned the tide, because it got Tony Clark and Rob Manfred back in the room, and they get to 60 games, and the narrative is entirely on the players' side. If that 60 game proposal, if we hit, we said tell us where and when, and they went, okay, here's 60 games at full prorated. Sign on the dotted line. The owners clearly at fault in the eyes of the media at that moment. Also, we haven't really gone into this, but the media pretty at fault in a lot of that as well, by not by giving Rob Manfred that platform and then not nobody following up and being like, hey, they said tell us where and when, and so it fell upon them to do it themselves. But it was just this is ugly. This is I
love one thing. I mean, maybe not to the extent of the language I use, but I've been noticing a lot too. I feel like seeing on Twitter guys like John Heyman, Carl Ravitch, Ken Rosenthal, whoever it might be. You can tell that these writers and these reporters, even they're getting pissed. It's like, this is ridiculous. This is so silly, and it's just such an embarrassment. Now, they're probably not going around calling Rob Manfred and players dumbasses. I'll take the heat on that one.
That's the kind of coverage you get here at Michigan and Trumbull.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit more passionate, a little bit more PG-13. But beyond that, we're not quite Carl and John Heyman level yet. But maybe one day, I don't know. We'll see. Those guys are pretty awesome. But I mean, it's bad, dude, and it's so easy. I just had a couple friends over the other night, and we were kind of talking about the whole situation. And I said it's so easy to get on the owners because they're billionaires. And prior to all this offer they threw out this week, it's easy to be like, these owners just need to suck it up, take the loss, move on to next season. Let's get baseball back. But now, I'm sorry, I don't even see how you can make an argument that after what's happened this week, that this is on the owners at this point in time. This is squarely on the players. I'm sorry, it has to be on the players. Who else? You got the one thing you wanted more than anything. You were given it, and that still wasn't enough. What? I don't get it. So I'm sorry. Because I've been reading players' tweets and stuff about why that wasn't acceptable and whatnot, why they had to do another counteroffer. You got the number one thing you wanted. You should have just taken that and run with it and ran played with it. I don't know. I mean, it's just bad. And I just don't see how you can make an argument with this right now that this is on the owners, because it's not. It is not.
Yeah, and that's what I think is the most disappointing thing is when you watch kind of a labor movement work, and then that you shoot yourself, that they don't know how to take yes. Yeah. And that's the number one rule of negotiation. And this is where it goes, where's Scott Boras now?
I mean, Scott got the one thing he told his players, not to fall for. He won in a sense. So I mean, it's just how much more are we going to try to, squeeze out? My gosh, it's insane. The other thing that's funny too, prior to, it was maybe right around the time when Rob Manfred made that comment about, we don't know if we're going to play in 2020 now. Mm-hmm. Then did you hear the reports that there was 6 owners who shall go nameless that were saying they did not even want to have a season?
Yeah.
So it's they don't even have their own, ducks in a row on their side. The players are just pouncing. They want their full prorated, then they get it, and then they pull this well, now it's not enough or whatever. We want more. This is an utter catastrophe.
Yeah.
I mean, we've said every word. Catastrophe, atrocious, abomination, horrible. Every adjective you want to use, whatever, it would work for this. It's terrible.
Major League Baseball is the 2020 of professional sports.
I like my analogy. I said Major League Baseball is the urinal cake of professional sports.
I think that's definitely
Major League Baseball is the 2019 Detroit Tigers, to kind of get it back to the show that we're about. I mean, honestly, it's just a complete train wreck.
Yeah,
right,
and it's really disappointing because like you as a Tigers fan, for those listeners, unlike Luke, that are extended Detroit sports fans, it's a really nice time in Detroit. The Pistons just hired a new GM that's really exciting. The Red Wings are looking at a great future with Stevie Y. Like everybody's in place right now. Al Avila had a killer draft.
I mean, it's like
the future is bright for Detroit sports if we ever get to play them again.
Yeah. You know, it's going to be interesting that one thing you brought up, that the players on their counter offer, the thing of next year teams can essentially do like marketing and advertising on the jerseys. So everybody flipped out this year over the Nike swoosh, which actually I like it on this shirt. I don't mind it on the jerseys. I just don't like where it's placed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like right on like the chest. It's on the left or the right one side. I wish they would put it on either the side or just on the back. Mm-hmm. But they want it nice, I guess, in Broadway, so people can see it in Nike, and I get that, marketing and whatnot. But what do you think if that were to happen next season? What kind of ads would we see on the Tigers jerseys? You think a Little Caesars? Would you imagine? I mean, who knows? It could be a Little Caesars jersey. I know that Quicken Loans is very active in Detroit philanthropy and putting their name on stuff. Also, Ford.
You think about the automakers.
Yeah,
those guys could have some movement there, or who knows? It could really be. Oh man,
it's just a mess. And I know we're you and I are even kind of all over the place because this week has just been such. It was at first awful because you got Manfred's initial comment of I don't think we're going to play, or I don't know if we're going to play. And then there's hope because you're like 60 games full prorated. There's no way the players pass on that. And then the players pass on it.
Yeah. I think that for me, this is the point. This is the furthest on the scale of season to no season. This is the closest I've been to the completely on the no season end. I just feel like this coupled with today's news about coronavirus in some organizations already, I just feel like at this point now, I think that if you're some of these big name stars, it's really just not worth it.
Yep, I have to agree. I mean, it's insane. It's been, and we definitely missed the boat. The boat should have left and set sailed about. You can make an argument 2 weeks ago with spring training picking up. I mean, I remember when we first started having these conversations when they canceled spring training or postponed it, whatever, back in middle of March, we were throwing out hypotheticals to each other like, we have to have a season by that first week of July. Mm-hmm. And we were like, anything beyond that, then you got to worry about trade deadlines, yada, yada, yada. What are you going to do in an 8-week season? That's what they're essentially trying to do. But even I think you said maybe 70 games in 74 days, something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of that's what this player proposal.
The players, the counter offer was. I mean, that's a tall order, and I want to make this clear too. I am not opposed. I would love to watch if they were somehow to be able to snap their fingers, wave a wand, and be like, "Hey, we're going to do a 162 game season." I'd be like, "Awesome!" I don't know how you're going to do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. The issue is though that's not feasible or realistic. An 80 to 90 game season at this point is no longer feasible or realistic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a 70 game season, it could happen. You need a lot to go right, though. You need coronavirus numbers to stay low. You can't do your double headers, which wasn't there a rumor at a point in time they were looking at maybe every other Sunday or Sundays being double header day?
Yeah, that was an early proposal.
That was a legit thing they were talking about. Rainouts, you can't have any rainouts because if you do have a rainout, then you can't make it up with a double header. And if you go with that 70-74 route, that's 4 off days over the course of the next 2 months.
Yeah, you're just asking for injuries when you try.
Even with that, I can see the players being pissed. I wouldn't want to, if I had to work almost 74 days straight and I only got 4 days off, I'd be pretty peeved about it. It's just a mess. This is such a mess. And you on the side of you?
Luke, you froze on me. I don't know if you froze on everybody else, but you're definitely frozen on me. Well, shout out to our friend Tom Souls while Luke gets unfrozen, who's playing Mario Party while he listens.
The best part about this is I couldn't see anything. I could hear you, but our screens had a little circle. And then all of a sudden I saw Tom's comment and I thought, what the hell is going on right now?
What happened? Yeah, we just became a commenting. We're just going to hang out with the listeners while we waited for you to make your way back.
I was lost and now I'm found. And that's what's unlike the baseball season, I have been found.
Thank goodness.
But yeah, so did you hear my question though before you cut out?
No, yeah, I lost you right there.
So my question to you was, you mentioned that this is kind of the first time throughout all this madness that you're on the side of like no season. Is that because you think it's just no longer really that feasible, or it's very unrealistic that we'd be able to do one? Or is it just because you yourself, Alex Freeman, are like, I don't care, do not play one?
I think that a little bit of both. I think that I think the two sides, there's just I think what we saw like we knew this coming in. We talked about it in our last episode, the sort of like pending labor problems of Major League Baseball that we're going to likely delay the 2022 season. And I think that they're even worse than we talked about in that they can't even, and ultimately I think part of that is that Rob Manfred has to go. And it's not that he's necessarily doing a bad job. It's just that he clearly
he's in over his head,
does not have the trust of the Players Association. And if you don't have the trust of the Players Association, you're never going to get anything done. And maybe that means Tony Clark has to go too. That we need new leadership at both and just start a new relationship. And I think that's ultimately that thing. And also at this point, like I am getting a little bit, obviously, we love baseball. We have a baseball podcast. We started a baseball podcast because we love to talk about baseball, but I'm also like, I almost would rather just have the announcement, we're shutting it down. We will see you in 2021.
Yeah.
We're going to just be ready for that. And I'm sort of at that point with the season. Cause I think at this point, like it feels like we're going to get an imposed 50 game season, and it's going to like not have half the guys that are really fun to watch play.
It's going to be awkward. I feel like it's almost going to be, you ever been at like a family function when like a relative yells and gets in an argument with another relative, but then you have to finish dinner?
Yeah.
That's what this is going to feel like this season. It's going to be like, okay, and my uncle just screamed at my mom, and now I have to finish my main entrees. Let's do this. Like, you just don't know. It's like, this is it's insane. It's insane.
So like I would almost be even more in favor of like a replacement style season where we just like don't have any of the stars. Everybody calls up their AAA team and we just kind of like play the farm system for a while.
I even said it a few weeks ago. I'm pretty much, I will watch baseball if baseball is given to us. I'm not going to sit here and get on my high horse and be like, nope, I'm sticking to my guns. Like, I'm not going to do that. However, I echo the thoughts I said a few weeks ago when I think I did another mini rant, that episode when I was sitting outside of like, with everything going on in the world right now, like, I don't care. Like this is unacceptable behavior, I think, on both parts. And it's a bad look, it's just a really, really bad look. And if we don't get a season in 2020, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. I mean, it sucks, but at this point in the game, there's not much more we can do. This has just been a mess. I will say this. The one thing I do agree with Rob Manfred on, he made a comment during one of his interviews earlier in the week saying, this is I don't remember the exact quote, but he essentially said, this is an absolute horrible look for our game of baseball, for our sport.
At least
and he's right. And he's at fault too for a lot of it. So I think everyone needs to do some looking in the mirror, but I digress.
Yeah, I think that's I'm not even going to say hopefully we have a season announcement for you guys next time we talk to you, because clearly that has never come together. So
we should almost consider doing, like, for this week's episode, not talking about this at all and just talking about something completely unrelated to talk about something related to baseball, but something that's completely unrelated to these current negotiations.
Yeah, let's do an apropos of not this season.
And maybe if we do that, we'll get an announcement. Because it seems like every time we're like, I think next week we're getting that announcement, we never get the announcement. So let's just not bring it up, and then maybe in turn we'll get an announcement.
Yeah, here's hoping. Well, if it happens, we'll bring you the news here, and we'll talk about it. All right, we'll see you later.